Hey, Utah Mammoth fans, welcome in, Tusks up, and let's get rolling for today's Utah Mammoth Daily episode. So, first, let's kind of do the first month MVP, and the obvious choice is Nick Schmaltz, right? First home hat trick in Utah history. He's leading the team with goals, assists, and that usually means you're leading the team in points. And he's just been all over the ice, really. He's been forechecking really hard. He's been able to get back on defense. He's been contributing in the penalty kill. Overall, he is the team's early season MVP. Other candidates would include Logan Cooley, because when the team was on that 7-game win streak, it was largely because of Cooley and Schmaltz. Those two guys were driving it. Clayton Keller would be another one. He had a couple of off games, but he is basically the standard for the team. First one in, last one out. Always looking to make the perfect pass, even though he probably shouldn't. He should take a little more on himself just to score some goals. But that's just a small nit that I have to pick. He's still my guy. That's never going to change. But anyway, so the early season MVP, not even early season, first month MVP has to go to Nick Schmaltz. Any way you slice it, there are other candidates, but what's not to like about Schmaltz's game in the early part of this season? I mean, come on. The only thing you don't like about it is that he's not signed to a multi-year contract. That's the only thing you don't like about it. We'll have to see how that goes. And speaking of that, are the talks going to reopen here soon? It's definitely possible. Both sides do want to start talking again. Obviously, they were really far apart in the offseason, and they could remain very far apart, especially after the contract Logan Cooley got. It'll be interesting to see what Nick Schmaltz's camp want for him, especially in this career year. But on the flip side, Utah doesn't want to overpay for a guy who is having a career year. You don't want to pay for the career year that's done. What you're doing when you sign a contract is, yeah, there's a little bit for thanks for what you've done for us before, but it's more about what are you going to do for us in the future. He does have that chemistry with Clayton Keller. He does have chemistry with a lot of the guys on the team, but it is a career heater right now. And you don't want to overpay and strike while the iron is hot on this one, as opposed to maybe seeing what the market is for him in terms of trades, right? That's when you want to strike when the iron is hot, is if your internal statistics, coaching, scouting, whatever it is, and those numbers come up and say, well, this is the best we're going to see from him and he's not going to reach these heights again, that's when you go to the trade market and be like, all right, this guy's having a career year. Who wants it for their playoff push, and what are you willing to give up? So, Nick Schmaltz, definitely, I want him to stay. I like his game a lot, but I think the cost will be too high for the player that he is. You know, everything regresses to the mean when it comes to any sport, and when you're having a career year, it's serendipitous for him when it comes to this being a contract year and he's having a career year. It would have been serendipitous for Utah as if he signed a contract extension over the summer and then he had a career year and just be like, yes, we've got him. So it's interesting timing for both camps to see what's going to go on there. Personally, I'd love to see him stay in Utah, but I get it. Go get paid. Honestly, go get paid is what I would say to him if he were asking me, which he's not. All right, next up, let's zoom out a little bit. A lot of us here in Utah are so zoomed in this slump that Utah's in, and we want all of these changes to be made, and we need to bench this person or fire that guy or cut this person or send this person to the AHL. Let's pause for a second. The underlying stats say Utah is really among the elite. The Mammoth have the league's best defense in terms of fewest shots allowed per game, and they could be even scarier, right, if they ever get their goaltending going. Right now, Utah has a 69% chance to make the playoffs per ESPN and their massive stats and information for only the second time since 2011, if we count the Arizona Coyote years, which that's a weird can of worms that I do not want to open right now. But for the first time in Utah history, let's put it that way, their top players are performing like top players overall, big picture, if we don't just zoom in to this most recent road trip. And Nate Schmidt is actually outperforming his contract, which is fantastic. That's what you want to see. Brandon Tanev as well is outperforming his contract. So this team, the underlying stats are still saying they are among the top of the NHL. The goals just aren't going in. They're also top 10, tied for ninth. When you look at the NHL's edge stat leaders, they are in the top 10 of high danger chances created so far this season with 137. Now, they're tied with the Nashville Predators, which is not a place you really want to be tied with, but that's still top 10 in the league, tied for ninth. So that's really good. Even, any way you slice it, this team is still really good. It's just the goalkeeping and then brain farts happening on the ice are what's really holding them back from getting more wins. And those brain farts are happening mainly in the second period, much like they were last season. So we all know what's going to happen. And we all know it's going to improve. It's just we need to remain patient. But let's assume we're not going to be patient here. And we all zone in, on the goalie situation, which seems to be a hot button issue among the fan base. Let's, again, take a look here. Karel Vejmelka is playing basically at his career average. He is who he is. Utah knows this. That's why the defense is playing like it is. So what needs to happen is the lapses in judgment that the team is having early on in this season need to be reduced. Those mistakes where it leads to odd man rushes and stuff like that. We've all seen that Karel Vejmelka can be brilliant. He can stand on his head. But you can't rely on that every game. We all know that he's not my personal favorite goalie, Patrick Waugh. He's not Marty Brodeur or Dominic Hasek. He's just a solid goalie. And that's great. That's fine. That's what you need. You need reliability, and that's what Karel Vejmelka brings. Vitek Vanacek is still, jury's still out on him. He had a very down year last year. This year he's on a prove-it contract. He had a couple of really good games and a couple of stinkers, which is basically why he's a backup in the NHL. And I did some research out there. I trawled the internet and the rumor sites to see if there are any goalies that could be available. And there just really isn't any upgrade. There isn't. John Gibson was a name that came up a lot before the season because of the Ducks situation then. Obviously, that's not going to change now. Dustin Wolf is another one. He had a brilliant year last year, a bad year this year. A lot of people are bringing up that, it's because the defense is really bad, so his year is worse, which is reasonable to say. So the other thing about that Dustin Wolf is he's not available for trade. He just signed a contract extension with the Flames. So even if the Flames tear it down, he's 24, and the Flames aren't going to trade him, right? They're going to rebuild almost around him. So my question to the herd is, who are you going to get? There's nobody out there. The other person that was brought up is someone who isn't even available, really, and that's what the Pittsburgh Penguins, Tristan Jarry. He's not available either because of the start the Penguins are having. So let's just take a chill pill. These guys are going to play hard. They don't have quit in them. They're professionals for a reason, so let's take a breather. Another thing that I did here is I had a conversation with a couple of different AIs. So I had one with ChatGPT and one with Gemini from Google. And I just basically wanted to try and mock out a trade situation with the Calgary Flames because, let's face it, the Flames are having a terrible year. And it doesn't look like it's going to be turning around quickly. So I've been keeping a close eye on Calgary just to see what, the blender that their fan base is in right now and seeing just who might be available. And the name that keeps coming up is Rasmus Andersson because he's in a contract year. He is a top pair defenseman. He's a right shot defenseman. And he could do so much on the ice. He's the associate captain for the Flames. And what Utah would have to give up is reasonable. It is what you would have to give up for that top pair defenseman. First round pick, matching contract. Maybe if you have a matching expiring deal you can send over, it wouldn't have to be a first round pick. And maybe a guy like Artem Duda or Maverick Lamoureux that has high upside but just hasn't broken through yet would be the cost. Would Rasmus Andersson waive his pseudo no trade clause? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on where Utah is standing. But that's really the only guy. The other name that's always floated out there by everyone and their cousin is Nazem Kadri. He just doesn't fit Utah. Utah has their top two centers, Barrett Hayton, Logan Cooley. Both are in a slump right now. It's fine. And I don't see Kadri willing to drop to the third line for a team like Utah like he did with Colorado. I don't really see that. So everyone calling for a change, everyone calling for a trade. It's easy to say those things, but when you dive into the nitty-gritty and you try to mock up these trades and you try to make a deal where it works for both sides, because this is not EA Sports NHL, this is real life, so the deal has to work for both sides unless you're the Dallas Mavericks. You need something on both sides. And what Utah has to give up to get a guy like Rasmus Andersson, I believe would be realistic in what Bill Armstrong would want to do if he is going to put his foot more on the accelerator. Depending on where Utah is at the end of this month will determine what he's going to do. Is it pedal to the floor? Yes, we have our window. I want to jam that thing open and let's go. Or is he going to be the Bill Armstrong we all know and just keep it tempered, let the young guys grow even more, and then when we hit the international break in February, maybe then he'll hit the pedal to the floor. But I've been talking about it a lot with this fan base. There's a lot of panic going on. There's a lot of, we need to change this, pull this lever, hit the nuclear option, fire the coach. It's November 12th. Yeah. So thank you all for watching. Hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys tomorrow for another Utah Mammoth Daily. Tusks up.